Speaking to Dedo Weigert, the world-famous creator of the Dedo lighting system. Dedo, if anyone knows about lighting, it is you. And what I need to ask you about is LED lighting. This is becoming a lot more used out there. In my life, I've started using it over the last number of months, and it has totally changed what I can do on location. And what I'm wondering is the impact of LED lighting in the long run. Do you ever see a time where LED lighting could supersede traditional lighting?
Only about a year ago, I would have said LED lighting is still an emerging technology. After working 5 years with several manufacturers of LED light sources, in the attempt to try and find something that I can combine with my specialty, the optical systems, we finally are at something that is like a breakthrough point where the color quality is getting about as good as one can ever expect. I don't think it can go a lot further. And we've been involved in color evaluation very, very deeply. First, we talk about Kelvin. Everybody knows. Then we talk about CRI, color rendition index. Then we have to learn that's not valid, because CRI usually involves 8 different colors. But it leaves out the R9, the red. It leaves out the R13 that we call skin tone. So we've got to work with expanded CRI. Only to find out that in the digital world, that again is not the full truth. So then comes Alan Roberts and introduces TLCI, Television Lighting Consistency Index. That's a good step closer to the reality of the digital world. But that is a system that is adopted by the European Broadcasters Union, but that is based on studio cameras. And studio cameras still today work with 3 CCD sensors. Whilst out there in the real world, there are thousands of new producers and small teams that all run around with cameras like this one that work with CMOS sensors. And then there are the audacious ones that shoot in the Canon 5D. There are thousands of those, and that's a wonderful instrument. And the new Nikon. And that world, again, is different, and there are variations. Digital cameras see LED light different. They see daylight pretty much all the same. Halogen light all the same. Even fluorescent, pretty much the same. Metal halides, HMIs. But LED, they see big differences. And that is getting a lot better since we're approaching the optimum of what LED can do in color rendition. These differences become less and less. There's still some there, so occasionally on one camera you say, well, you may still need a very, very gentle filter if you want to match it to halogen light or a kinoflow daylight and so on. But the reality is, we were never able to match anything. Even when you had 5 HMI lights with 5 lamps from the same manufacturer, same wattage, they were not the same. They behaved very individual, like human beings. And so it never was that precise. And being a German, of course, we want to nail down things like, yeah, tungsten light is 3,200 Kelvin. That value exists only in the books. In the reality of the studios, in the reality of real life, rarely ever. Daylight, 5,600 Kelvin. In the Kodak book that we all had, it said in June, 12 o'clock noontime, no clouds, 5,600 Kelvin.
Yeah.
So I was shooting in June in Katowice in Poland. Yeah, June, noontime, no cloud. The air felt strange. You could chew it. Take out my old-fashioned Minolta color temperature meter. It said 2,800 Kelvin. Yeah. So what is daylight? Daylight can be anything. But we still want to get as close to the ideal. And we're trying to work on that, and we've come a very far way. And with our focusing lights, finally, we're able to overcome the difficulties in matching LED light sources with our double aspheric optics. That was very difficult because the manufacturers of LEDs all measure their light sources in an Albrecht sphere. That's a big ball that's white on the inside, and all the light is mixed up and integrated. But once you send it through optics, it all looks perfectly different, because the light that goes through the center may have a different color than the light that goes on an angle. So we had to learn new vocabulary, color over angle. And then we had to overcome that by the matching of new designed LED light sources to match our optics. And the optics we could not just take and put in front of the LED. Yeah? We had to redesign the optics to match each of those new light sources. And it took 5 years. But it looks like it was worthwhile. I think we've arrived. And this is not the end of the development. There's still hopes that LEDs will become more light efficient, that they'll be able to dish out a higher light intensity, and the relationship between the enormous heat. Many people think there's no heat to LEDs. There's enormous heat. That relationship may still become better. At the moment, we still need enormous cooling on the LED lights because LEDs don't take much heat. You take an old-fashioned halogen lamp, and it's happy at 2,900 Celsius, 3,200 Kelvin. You take an LED, you heat it up to 85 degrees, and it wants to give up. It loses color, it loses intensity. Heat it up to 100 degrees, it will die. Yeah. So lifetime of the LED, that all people think is endless, is very much dependent on the heat management. And all these aspects, finally, it looks like we've overcome them, and we've got them in many variations now, from 8 watt, 20 watt, 40 watt, 90 watt, 250 watt, and that opens up a whole world where the big light, the 250 watt, is a real monster. You wouldn't carry that in a little bag. That's for the studios. The 40 watt compares to a 300 watt studio Fresnel light, what those used to do earlier. And in spot, we even do better. So that is something that will take the place for the mobile teams. Yeah. Why? Because you can dim them with no color change. We were never able to do that. We can dim them all the way down. Couldn't do that. Because we have bicolor, that means we can choose, and in the bicolor now, we go the entire range from 2,600 Kelvin all the way above 6,000. So we can adapt, find a match to pretty much any kind of ambient light. And there's another wonderful aspect about it. You can run them from a battery. Yeah? Even our 100 watt little Dedo lights that were very popular, run it off the battery, it's 8.5 amps. Yeah, you need a big battery, a heavy battery. The 40 watt you can run for 2 hours of a small lithium battery that is small enough so it can allowably take it on an airplane. Yeah, 100 watt hour is the limit. You can't go on an airplane with it. So that makes this more acceptable for the mobile crews. And it's gone as far that many of the small teams, the 2-people team, the 1-people team, the VJs, they only work with batteries. Even if there's a plug there, yeah, they say it's much easier. I use my battery, I don't stumble over the cables. Here I go. I've got light for 2 hours. And then I need to change the battery.
Well, that's me all over. Now, I've been using traditional lights for a very long time, but I am mobile, I am filming on location a lot, and to be able to have a battery-powered light source, which is actually a high-powered light, we're not talking a low power of light, we're talking a good output, to be able to light on location. I mean, if you want to film inside of a cave, if you want to, I did a shoot recently and I had the sunset behind me and I was able to light the subject in front of the sunset, lit, looking fantastic. You never would have got lights out on location. It was on a cliff front. Power wasn't available within 2 miles. So the convenience factor means everything to the mobile team.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about focusing lights. They're nice, they're very versatile, but if you use them as a key light, they will still look quite aggressive.
Yes.
And it's not everybody's thing. You can't do that to little old ladies. They will pull out their sunglasses, they shade their eyes. Yeah? So we need also gentler light sources with a larger surface of light emitting diffusers. And now we can either put soft boxes onto the little focusing lights, that works okay, or we have the multi-LED panel lights. But again, if they're used the way you look at them normally, they're very aggressive. It's a larger surface, but a killing impression. It's inhuman. So you put a diffuser in front of it, it doesn't help anything. You have to put a diffuser at a distance, then it becomes bearable. So we've fitted our Feloni panels with the option of a softbox that puts the diffuser this far away from the light source, and then it becomes practically a human light. You can do that to people. It's gentle, it's pleasant. People are not disturbed by it, they feel at home. And that takes away the psychological effect that some LEDs had. Like you go to somebody's home and it's lit with energy-saving lamps. It freezes your soul. It's not healthy. You don't feel good. You can't talk the way you would. But with the softbox, it turns it into something that becomes human, pleasant, amiable, and then being able to tune them, dim them, change color easily. That makes it something that makes life easier because you can work faster, you have more options, and at a turn of a button and turn of the other button, one is for the color, one is for the intensity, you can adjust to pretty much any situation. And if you add just a little filter occasionally, you can even survive an office room that is lit with fluorescence. That will give you beastly green, bad skin tones. So you add a little bit of green to the softbox or to the focusing light, and you go halfway and you make it an acceptable match of the bad green in the background and the not so bad green on the skin tone. You white balance on that, and it makes you survive many situations that previously were very hard to manage. So yes, in mobile teams it will find wide acception, and in the studios they're really longing for it, where again the high power soft lights are needed just the same as the far reach focusing tunable precision lights, and a mixture of those makes it acceptable for the studios. So many studios now will turn to LED because they expect the energy saving, coupled with the effect that we don't need 1200 lux anymore in the studio. It can be 500, it can be 400, it could be 300, and that matches those two worlds and comes together. And that's where many studios are considering turning over to complete LED lights. And still, you have to choose the more dramatic lighting with more hard lights or the more gentle lighting. And fluorescent lighting is still there, still has a real high value because of low heat, low energy, and good color. The KinoFlows are perfect in color. But so both options are now open, and even occasionally mixing them. Yeah? So it does have a place finally. The bicolor for mobile teams seems to be the answer, because it allows a lot of variations, fast work in the focusing and the panel lights. What we see also is that small teams use less light because, like in a documentary situation, you find the light and you just gently augment it. So sometimes you can do something that looks wonderful with just two lights. And in the past, when you light everything from 0 to full blast, it was 5 lights. Yeah? The key light, the fill light, the backlight, the kicker, and the light on the background. 5 lights. Very often now, you look for it, you find it, you augment it, and there you go. You work faster, and very often it can be an advantage that you maintain the character of the room in which you are, the feeling of the space. That otherwise, if you artificially create that, it's not that easy. You need a little bit of experience to recreate that as a completely built lighting situation. So.
Well, it's impressive where it's come to, and it will be very interesting to see where it is in a number of years from now. But I'm using those lights on location, and it's made a big impact on what I can do. The only thing I would say is that sometimes with something like the Filoni, because you've got these bricks on the back that are nice, chunky batteries which power them for a long time, you've got a bit more effort to actually take them out on location with you. But they give back, and the convenience factor matters. As long as the result is good too, and in this case what we're talking about, the result is there. So we'll be watching and seeing where you go to next with the LED lighting. Thank you.
Thank you.